Hello and welcome to another session of Application Development Today. My name is Don Jackson. I'm your host. I'm also a Chief Technologist here at OpenText. And today's topic is generative AI. What is it? What's the big buzz about it? And I'm pleased to have with me today Mr. Yuval Koren. Yuval and I have been working together now for probably about 5 years. We don't get the pleasure, well, I don't get the pleasure, he doesn't get the misfortune of talking to me very often. But I'm pleased to have Yuval on the session today. Yuval, if you want to introduce yourself real quick.
Thanks, Don. I'm very excited to be here. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about generative AI. So my name is Yuval Koren. I am the R&D director of Value Edge in OpenText. I've been working in OpenText for about actually I stopped counting after 15 years. Uh, so not sure. The COVID years are a bit lost there. So 15 or 16 years. Um, and I started as a developer. Actually, I started to develop at the age of 6. So
Nice.
on a Commodore 64 computer, when you switch it on, it showed basic. So started
Mhm.
with basic and moved on to some other languages. So I have
That's
been.
funny you mentioned that. I happen to have this book.
Oh my God, basic programming.
There you go, right? So, yeah, I've got all kinds of wonderful things. I should show you some things in my library. I have a right next to that one is Pascal.
And
So, yeah.
that's the second language I learned after basic. And it was an exciting time because you could do, a little ball that goes around the screen, and that was the most beautiful thing you could achieve in your life back then. And it was
Yeah.
amazing to develop. So the development is programming is my hobby, and at night I do games using Unity, and a day we develop Value Edge, which is an ALM lifecycle ALM platform that helps you to develop your applications from strategy to release.
Yeah. I'll tell you too, Yuval, when talking about this particular topic with different people, I said, who's somebody that you think really knows it, right? Really knows generative AI. Not that anybody knows it, because let's be honest, the industry's what, a year old at this point, so nobody is really an expert in it because it's at best you have a year experience. I'm sure somebody's going to post a job opening that says, "Yeah, need 15 years experience in generative AI." For an industry that's only 1 year old. And Yuval's name came up from multiple sources that I trust uh, uh, that I trust a lot. So thanks for taking the time, Yuval. So there's been a lot of press with Chat GPT. Well, what is generative AI? Because I said I'm kind of using them interchangeably. What is GPT? What does the acronym stand for? And what is generative AI for? Explain it to the masses.
Wow. So, AI in general is a very large topic, but it usually, uh, um, the classical AI is to be able to build your own. I mean, let the computer build a function that can predict something. Um, and it's mainly about being able to predict or being able to classify things. That's the classical AI. But lately, there is a generative AI, and generative AI is able to actually generate things that weren't before, like making a song or making a picture or a video. And this actually is a new a new way to do things, and it's very very exciting. I think it's exciting for a lot of people because it acts as a human being and you can talk to it, and you can ask it to make pictures. And and you know, when ChatGPT started, actually I started I think more than a year ago, experimenting with GPT. Um, I got an early access to OpenAI. I was one of the first that got early access to experiment with GPT 3, and you know, you're used to having all kinds of bots like
Mm-hmm.
Clippy and all those bots in a lot of websites in the corner of the screen, and you're used to asking something and getting absolutely no helpful response. So I remember the first thing I noticed is that when I write something, it actually responds to what I actually wrote and writes me something back, and that was amazing. And I started experimenting a lot with all sorts of things. So you know, at first, of course, the first thing you do is ask it to write a song. That's what everybody is doing, right? And it writes a song. That's very, very nice. Then you improve it a bit, right? Write the song in a certain theme. Um, but actually, you get bored of writing songs after a few days. So you
Yeah.
start to experiment with other things. And the the thing I understood very quickly is that in many ways it acts as a human would act, and that really surprised me because that's the first time I saw something like that. And then I understood that it 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 doesn't only write things or answer questions, but it can only read. It can also read things. So you can give it something to read and then ask it a question, and it will read it, and it will then answer the question out of the context. That opened a lot of applications for it, actually. Um, I remember the first blog I saw about someone that got a lot of emails from a lot of HR agencies asking if you want to move into another job, and it's
Never seen one of those.
it's
Yikesy.
it's disturbing, but he didn't want to ignore them. You know, you never know when you're going to need that. So he did a little program that actually took the email and asked GPT to understand who is the contact and who is the company and which company is it, and actually return this information, but return it in a JSON format. And that was mind blowing. I mean, what? It can return something in a JSON format, because that means that I can take this JSON format, I can take the JSON and do something in it inside a program and continue doing
Mm-hmm.
something with it. And that was really opened a lot of applications for using GPT in order to do something. So the first thing I did is programmed a little program that teaches you English for my little daughter. Uh, and I just told GPT to write to ask a question, remove the verb, and write four options of the verb, like which one of them is the true verb, and and it did, and I asked it to tell me all of that into a JSON format, so I could ask the question, and then she picks the right answer, and I know if it's the right answer because GPT tells me what is the right answer. And so,
So what you're saying is if I send you an IM or an email and I get a response that he's no longer with the company, that's because you've gone out and sold this new program, English as a second language program. That's pretty awesome. So DYA, define your acronym. GPT stands for Generative Pre-training Transformer, right?
right.
Which you hear that and you're like, great. I still don't know what that
What
means. So
what
thank
what
you
is
for
it?
explaining what that means to us. So one of the things, because
Actually,
I
I didn't explain what it means, but it's a new way to do generative AI. And actually, even before GPT, you could do a program that you can talk to it. It's pretty easy. I think everybody can do such a program. You just uh, you need a book, an English book, and then you take each word in the book and you see what is the next word after that. That's pretty easy, right? You can have a dictionary of all the words in the book and which words came after them. For example, if I say the word I, you will probably say M, right? That's the logical word after I. And so you can do that, and then you type a few words, and you let the computer complete the next word by the statistical of what is the next word after that.
right,
So you can do
yeah,
that
I
in
mean you see
five
things
minutes.
like that on social media, right? It says start typing this and then just click the middle button on your phone, right? The middle suggestion on your phone to see what the sentence is that comes up,
Yeah, that's exactly.
which is
But and when you do that, you get kind of an English, but you it doesn't really do something, and you say to yourself, okay, that's not good enough. Let's try to predict by the two last word what is the next one. Okay,
Mhm.
and you do that. That's really easy, and then you get kind of an English. It's good grammatically. It's very good mostly, but it has no meaning.
So let's resume now. So what I was going to say is, I also started using ChatGPT pretty early on, and I experienced, I asked it lots of questions. I asked it personal questions. I asked it business questions, and one of the challenges that I saw is that it would always respond very confidently. Right, the tone would be very confident, but sometimes the response was just it's like it was hallucinating or something. It was on acid, maybe it was from the 60s and, had was dropping acid because that stuff just never happened. And so, that's a term that's used. So, what is a hallucination and how do we avoid hallucination?
Yeah, so this is a very important topic in this world. It's very confident. It's always very confident because it's a statistical model, and statistics are very confident. And the problem with hallucination is that there could be several things. I saw people asking something, and then it answered, and then they asked, okay, so what URL, which is the from where did you take this information? What is the URL that you took this information from? And it would answer something, but it's incorrect. And I want to do the same experiment with you. Okay, so
Okay.
I'll ask you if you know what is a tomato.
Okay. Yeah, it's a fruit.
Great. Uh, where did you learn that?
Sitting at the dinner table, there was something that was really disgusting that my parents made me eat that I hated, and I asked what it was, and they said it was a tomato.
Wow, so you remember that the day you learned the word tomato? Because that's really hard to do. So
I just made that. I just made that up.
you see, you
I did.
hallucinated.
No, I don't remember when I learned the word tomato. I mean, obviously, I mean that's part of your formative years. I don't remember stuff that we
Exactly.
all start speaking around what, a year old,
So GPT does not
sometimes
remember.
earlier. Yeah,
It does not remember where it learned that. Exactly as you can remember where you learned something. You just know you know it, right? So,
yeah.
but the
But it was convincing. My story was convincing, wasn't it?
yes, very
Because I
much,
said it with such confidence.
very much.
I was playing along, right?
So there is one issue with GPT. It has to answer. It doesn't. It cannot tell you. I'm not. Doesn't feel like I want to answer that, or not today. Come back tomorrow or something like that. It has to answer your question. It has no choice. And your question was, where did you learn that from? Tell me the URL. You need to tell me the URL. So it has to lie, actually. It has no choice but to lie. And this is a problem. So the correct question should be not what is the URL of the source of your information. The correct way to answer is, can you tell me from which URL you took this information? Okay, and because sometimes our questions hold some facts, like tell me the URL you took it from. So it means there is a URL, and maybe there isn't. And so uh, whatever you tell GPT, you're like a god. Whatever you tell it, it's the absolute truth. GPT is very gullible. It will believe everything you say. That's a problem, by the way, with GPT. The
Yeah.
personality. It believes everything you say. And when you ask a question that actually the question is a fact and the fact is not true, it will have to lie. And for example,
Yeah. So
yeah,
one of the things that they teach you, and that frankly, if you, I was a big fan of the TV show The West Wing. I don't know if you ever watched that, right? But they talk about having the conversation with the press, right? Don't accept the premise of the question,
yeah,
right? And whereas GPT accepts whatever premise of the question there is. So you have a great example there. Is what URL did you get this from? That there's a premise to that question of that there was a URL that you got it from.
exactly.
So there has to be one, and because it's as you said, right? It's accepting you as gospel truth. Whatever you're saying, you can get down a really nasty rabbit hole by how you're phrasing the questions. So to get back to the question of how do I avoid hallucination, as it sounds like you're saying you have to understand how to properly phrase the question
Right.
that you give them in order to not lead it down a path of hallucination.
But then again, I as a developer, do not control the question that the users will ask. That's the problem,
Exactly.
right? So,
Hmm.
rule number one, never transfer the user's question as is to the GPT. You need some mediator in the middle. So, if a user asks a question, the prompt might be, please try to answer the following question. If you don't know the answer, just say, I don't know. Try to be as exact as you can and stick to the facts. And then you put the user's question. And
Okay.
this will render better results than just asking something.
That's really fascinating. So, um, we've heard the term coming around LLM. So what is the acronym LLM, and how does that how does an LLM fit into GPT? Can you kind of break it down for the layman?
So LLM is large language model,
Okay.
and um, and it refers to the generative AI that contains lots of parameters. We know that GPT in its first version, it contains, I think, 7 billion parameters, and then something around, if I remember correctly, something 20 or something parameters. And when OpenAI built GPT-3, they jumped from 20 something to 175 billion parameters, and
Wow.
that was a huge jump. I only imagine the first time someone actually, after they trained the model, someone wrote it something, and it answers so intelligently that people were, oh my god, I don't believe it. It was a huge jump, and so that's the large language model, and the GPT is the technology behind it. So it's one of the technologies. I know, by the way, that Google is now they are planning a newer model called Gemini, which will have another technology. It's still a large language model, but it will have underneath another technology that, by the way, rumors are saying that it will be the everything model, and it will be able to um, get as an input, it will be able to get sound and pictures and text and videos, and also output sound and text and pictures and videos. You could do a lot more with it, and it's a very exciting time. Every month there is something newer and more amazing than the last month.
That's amazing. And as you described it, with the ability of generative AI to create stuff, I can understand why, the entertainment, the artist industry is so concerned about generative AI, because that creativity is what, artists, whether you're talking about movies or books or singers, lyricists. That's how they make their money, right? And so, how do you protect those industries? I don't think that's something that we're going to solve
It's
on this session, but it's I can understand why there's such concern, because generating that creativity is what has distinguished in the past humans from artificial, right? Is that creativity? Well, now with the generative AI, it's is it truly creating something, or is it really, it's not? And is it behaving in a truly new concepts? Is it able to come up with new things, or is it really smashing together things that are like? I think it's a fascinating conversation to have.
I could argue the same with us. Are we able to
Exactly.
do to create new things, or maybe all most of the advances happened, as a mistake, and someone
Yeah.
found something. Um, i- there is no definitive answer for that, um, and it's a problem, because if I make a song, I can't make songs, but if an artist can I make a song, how can you promise that? I heard a lot of songs in my life. I learned from those songs. It must be somewhere. My song is composite of all the things that I've experienced in my life, but that's okay for me as a human to write a song. From GPT, it also learns from all the various sites and text and things, and it does the same. But I'm guessing that maybe it does it a bit better or faster, and that's just scary
Yeah.
for us humans. That's
Yeah, I mean, you think about music specifically, and music is math, right? And there are rules, and what impresses me is when you have somebody like a Leonard Bernstein, right, who was a fantastic composer and artist, and he wrote lots of music that broke the rules, but still, and the rules are in there because whether they're pleasing to the ear or not. He broke a bunch of rules that when if you listen to two parts of for example the Chichester Psalms, if you listen to just two parts that are very dissonant, it's very displeasing to the ear. But when you hear it in with all of the parts together, those dissonant chords harmonize with other dissonant chords that he put in there. And it's absolutely brilliant what he did. And so that's, to me, that's a creative genius there, right? Is somebody who's taking the rules, breaking some rules, following other rules, and being able to do that. That's where that creative genius comes in. Whereas a lot of music, you listen to it, and as you and I develop more white in our beards than we have, it's more salt than pepper. We hear a lot of songs and we're like, I'm pretty sure I heard
yeah,
this song
yeah.
like 30
They
years
play
ago.
safe, right? There is a template, and they say, yeah,
Yeah,
this template
exactly.
is good. I'll do something. They take a template, right? And so you could argue that they are mimicking something else as well.
Yeah. I
Uh,
heard a good beat. I like the beat in this song, so I
let's
adopted that beat. I modified it slightly, but I adopted this beat. Oh, that harmony, I really like that harmony from that song on there. I want to lay that on top of this beat. And
they take several ideas and they
yeah,
put them together, and that's actually what GPT does.
and yeah, and that's what this is doing, which is why that industry is so scared about it. We have our own fears and enterprise solutions, of how do we, and I'm not going to put you on the spot of trying to solve all of the industry's problems, because this is an evolving field. But we have things like, how do I leverage this capability yet protect intellectual property, IP? How do I leverage this and still follow privacy guidelines with PHI, private health information, or PII, personally identifiable information, or credit card information, and all of this stuff, that there are all these regulations about privacy, yet I still want to benefit from generative AI. So being able to solve that, I think that's one of the things that we're figuring out today,
Right.
right? We're still trying to figure out today.
That's the
So where
problem.
do you think?
And let me tell you a little anecdote that just happened
Yeah.
to me yesterday. Someone presented to me a character that he designed in Midjourney for marketing related here in the company. And he designed like a bear character with a hat, and the hat was like something like that, and it was a blue hat, and you could see that on the blue hat you saw like Shutterstock. You saw in here the sha, and you saw in here the stock. So you could see that it was taken, I mean, how it was taken from Shutterstock with the watermark, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
So I don't think Midjourney should be trained on pictures of that people took and are the property of Shutterstock, I guess,
Right.
and that's a problem. But I don't have any solution for that. Uh, We won't solve it today.
Well, if you did, that'd be another. We'd be talking to Quran Enterprises now instead of instead of here, right?
Yeah.
So, I like to do this with guests frequently. Is you've all I want you to try to put on your prognosticator cap, right? Your For those of us who watched Carson, I watched Carson as a kid, right? Put on my Karnak. The answer is, um, put on your Karnak hat. Is what do you think? What do you think the future is going to be with this technology?
Well,
Not, and just to caveat, so for everyone watching, this is just an opinion. This is not the open text position. This is Yuval's opinion. What do you think?
oh no, what I'm going to say here is the definite future. No, I'm just kidding. Uh, um, I think that there is a lot of hype right now around the generative AI, and I mean, right now, there is Copilot, and people are saying, yeah, it will replace all developers. I actually don't see it happening in the next few years because right now the technology, I mean, and that's a problem. Um, when you watch YouTube, you see amazing things that can be done with GPT. But
Hmm.
what you don't know is that um, they tried a lot of things failed, and then
Yeah,
they tried something and it succeeded. Then they go and they publish it on YouTube. Look what
they
I've
publish
done.
just the good stuff,
That's
right?
the good
Yeah,
stuff. When you
yeah,
actually when you practice with GPT, you get a mix of results. Some are amazing, but some are bad, and it's not consistent yet. When it will be consistent, then we'll be able to use this technology in order to develop things. I myself use it in order to, um, um, sometimes I instruct GPT to do something in development, and a lot of times when it come up with a program, the program has bugs, and sometimes it takes more time to find those bugs than to just develop it yourself, and that's a problem. Um, and it's even a bigger problem when you use Copilot and you use it to for the AI to write some code. Notice that it doesn't write. I mean, you don't know which lines were written by AI and which lines are written by human beings. That's a problem, actually,
yeah,
because maybe I would like to double check code that was written with AI, but it doesn't really. I don't have the means to understand, to know which lines were written um, by AI. So right now, it's not. Even though YouTube, you can find amazing things in YouTube, it's not consistent, but it's it will keep getting better. And I think that all of the call centers that we have today with people talking with you when you call, I don't know, the bank or something like that,
hmm
that I believe will be replaced by machines. And there is a small gap right now, which is when you write something, it will give you beautiful results most of the times, but you cannot speak to it
hmm
because nobody taught the AI how to have a conversation, when to stop, when to start talking, when to listen. So, now these days, and I did an experiment. I did a small program that does speech to text and then give it to GPT, and then the answer I do text to speech, and I gave it to my wife to experiment with that. And she started to ask a question, and then she stopped for a second to think about the question in mid sentence, and then GPT decided, oh, it's she ended saying the
Done. Yeah.
question, it started to answer, and then she said, no, 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 I wanted to, and then it completed the answer and got their question. It was a whole mess, and after 20 seconds she said to me, oh, come on, leave me alone, and went.
Yeah, well, I think you bring up a good point is generating when you have this generative content. I don't want to say code, right? Whatever this content is, somebody as of now, right? Somebody needs to proof that to make sure it's correct. You talked about some of the code that gets generated. I mean, I remember one time I was at a customer site. We were in the final throes of implementation. There was this one procedure that it was at least this much code. I didn't write it; somebody else wrote it, and it was just giving the wrong. I knew what the input was, and I knew what the output was supposed to be, and I knew what the formula was, and there was like this much code, and I finally, I couldn't figure out what they were doing, where they did it wrong. I just said, forget it. I just commented it all, and I wrote my own code, right? Because it was going to take me less time because I had the customer breathing over my neck right here, watching me. I'm like, I'm just gonna, which is not the right, by the way. This is why I'm not a developer anymore, is because I do stuff like that where I'm like, I'm just gonna get the answer, right? I'm not gonna go fix the problem. I'm just gonna comment out that somebody else can fix the problem. But, yeah. So Yuval, thank you so much for taking the time today. Everybody who's a featured guest, if you've ever watched any of this, I give you parting thoughts time. Something, uh, Yuval's words of wisdom. Lay it on us. What is Yuval's words of wisdom? It can be about generative AI or something completely different. Like there was this old commercial that I use all the time. Never eat spinach with a stranger. That doesn't make any sense at all, and it didn't make any sense in the commercial, but it was something that sticks in my mind.
So
Never eat spinach with a stranger. Yeah.
So actually, there is one thing that I'm not sure a lot of people understand. When you want to develop something with the GPT, with this technology, it it's very helpful to think of the LLM as a new employee that you just got to the company, and he has some experience like in development and QA, um, but he is totally new to the company. He doesn't know your product. He doesn't know anything, and when and you need to give him some task to do. So whatever you can write on a paper, and you feel that as a human being, if you write it on a paper, you will be able to do that. Then so does the GPT. It will be able to complete the task. So if you want to understand which things GPT can help you and which things it cannot do, just do that. Mental experience. And think of a new employee, and you need to give it all the information on a piece of paper. And if you can, if you think that you will get such a paper and be able to write a good answer, then so does the GPT. And it's very helpful to think about that when you want to do something like develop something using GPT, but you don't know what you can do and what you can't. Then if you do that thought experiment, you will be able to understand the powers of GPT and where you can use it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Yuval, thanks again for taking the time today. I know it's late in your day. It's early in my day. The joys of working in a global
And the
community
laws
like
of
this. But
physics are very confusing.
that's right. So, and to everyone watching, I encourage you guys, if you have ideas of topics that you'd like us to cover in here, feel free to email me at djackson3@opentext.com. This is another one of those ones that somebody had suggested. So this was the topic that we got on, and I found an expert in Yuval for that. So Yuval, thanks again for taking the time today. And I look forward to seeing you all on our next episode.
If you liked the video, please click the like button. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel so that you get notified when we release new videos.